Good morning. My name is Brian Manley. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Austin Police Department. With us here tonight, we've got the City Manager, Mark Ott, our Assistant City Manager, Ray Ariano. We've got members of the command of the executive team, along with our legal staff. I want to give you a briefing on the officer-involved shooting that occurred earlier this morning and the facts that we have at this point from our preliminary investigation. This incident actually began late last night. We got a call at 10:28 p.m. last night from the apartment complex behind us at 4201 address back here. We had a call of a suspicious person. It was described as a male walking with a backpack through the parking lot, looking into vehicles, and believed that there may have been a burglary of vehicles in progress or attempted burglary of vehicle in progress. So the initial call came in last night again at 10:28 p.m. and officers responded to that call. We had 4 officers respond to that call, and while they were here working their way through the apartment complex, they did observe a backpack which they believed might be evidence that there was some type of criminal activity going on. After spending approximately an hour in the apartment complex trying to locate a suspect, identify if there were any vehicles that were broken into, they finally cleared the call, unable to locate that suspect. They cleared that initial call at 11:30 last night. 911 got another call last night at 11:52. The caller stated that the suspect was back, so we believe again this was the same caller who reported it the first time. And again, they described him as a suspicious person in the parking lot, behaving suspiciously, said that he might be on drugs, he might be high, but that it was the same suspect from earlier. Our officers returned to the scene again in an attempt to identify the suspect and determine if there was any criminal activity taking place. Upon arrival, one of our officers located a person that they believed to be the suspect. This person ended up running from the officer, and there was a foot chase that took place through the apartment complex. During the foot chase, the officer broadcast the direction. Supervisor came up on the radio. We were calling for air support, canine support, again trying to bring this person into custody. Our officer ended up catching up with this individual in the back of the apartment complex. This individual was non-compliant, and our officer ended up deploying less lethal force through the use of a taser. The suspect went down on the ground, and at this point the officers were giving him multiple commands to show his hands, to roll over, again in an attempt to take him into custody and identify what activity he was involved in. The officers gave commands for a period of time, and what we can see on video is that the suspect very quickly rolls over, produces a handgun, and begins firing shots at our officers. Our officers immediately retreat and return fire. There are multiple shots that are fired, again by both the suspect who initiated the gunfire and our officers who returned fire. The suspect was struck by gunfire. Fortunately, our officers were not. At this point, the officers re-engaged the suspect, again giving him commands to show his hands, to roll over on his stomach. The suspect continued to be non-compliant at this point. Our officers were telling the suspect that they needed to get him medical attention because they believed at this point that he had been struck by the gunfire. Again, telling him they were trying to get him medical attention, he needed to roll over, he needed to show his hands because again, he was in possession of a weapon and he had just fired at the officers. This went on for several minutes trying to get the suspect to comply so that we could go in and safely bring him out and get him to medical attention. The officers were calling for trauma kits so that they had everything available once we could safely secure this individual. Once we finally were able to get a plan together and approach the suspect and safely separate him from the weapon he had just used against our officers, at that point our officers began to immediately use medical attention and treat him prior to EMS coming in and transporting him. This individual was transported to, I believe, South Austin Hospital, and he did succumb to his wounds and was pronounced deceased at 12:48 a.m. We do not have a positive identification on the suspect at this point. Our belief at this point is that he is a white male, approximate 30s, but again, that's just based on preliminary information. We do not have any identification on him as of yet. There were 2 officers involved in this incident that used lethal force. We had 1 officer who also used a less lethal shotgun, again, in an attempt to separate this individual from his weapon when he was not being compliant after the exchange of gunfire. The officers that used their firearms in this incident, as standard practice, will be placed on administrative duty pending our initial review of this incident. Those officers, one of them has been with the department for 2 years and 9 months. The other officer has been with our department for 23 years and 8 months. This investigation will include components from the Austin Police Department Special Investigation Unit, the Austin Police Department Internal Affairs Unit. The District Attorney's Office is on scene and participating and overseeing this investigation as well, and the Austin Police Monitor will be involved in this investigation as is standard practice. I would just add that we had a citizen who captured this incident on a cell phone camera. We have in-car cameras that were rolling, but due to the angles of the cars, they don't capture the actual shooting itself. They do capture all of the audio exchanges between the officers and the suspect. But we do have a civilian who captured this incident on a cell phone. And having watched that cell phone, I stand here tonight saying that we are fortunate we didn't lose an officer tonight. When he rolled over and produced that weapon and fired at our officers, they were in very close proximity, and they did an outstanding job reacting to the deadly force that was put their way. It's unfortunate that we lost a life tonight, that this individual chose to attempt to take an officer's life. And as always, we try to preserve life, and our hearts go out to the families of this individual once we have him identified. But I say, having watched that video, we're fortunate that we're not standing before you tonight talking about our officers also being seriously injured or killed. So at this point, that's all the information we have based on the preliminary information and investigation that we've done to this point. This will be an active scene behind us. Due to the complexity of the crime scene, there was a foot chase that took place all through the apartment complex, and then again the shooting itself that involved the suspect and 2 of our officers. So there's a lot of evidence that we'll have to capture, and our teams will be out here through the day, however long it takes, to make sure that we capture everything we need to do a thorough and complete investigation in this incident. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
How are those 2 officers that were involved in it? You said they're lucky to be alive. How are they doing mentally right now? Are they shaken up, or?
Yeah. I've spoken to each officer, and they're absolutely shaken. I think they realize how fortunate they are based on the threat that they faced tonight, but also they know that they've taken a life, and that's not anything any of our officers ever want to be involved in. Every officer knows that it's a potential that could happen that comes along with the job, but when you're put in that position and those officers had to take that action, it definitely shakes them up.
You said the individual, the suspect, fired shots. Where did those shots hit, if you can say?
Yeah, that's part of the ongoing investigation. We've got a crime scene unit in there now, and that's what we're working on, is trying to identify where those shots ended up. All right, thank you very much.